Breaking news for any Texas Longhorn basketball fan. This news might upset some of you. This news might anger some of you. But if you're rational, I think this news might be very calming for you. Y'all ready for it? The breaking news is the sky is not falling. Everything's going to be all right. What's up, guys? BK, Brad Kellner. Today is Monday, February 21st, 2022. We're talking Texas basketball on today's video. Before we get started, quick shout out to all of you. Just passed 2,000 subscribers on this channel. So appreciate y'all continuing to follow along. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. We talk all things Texas Longhorn sports, also Houston sports as well on this channel. So please like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so and tap that notification bell so you're always informed whenever I release new content. But shout out to those of you who have already subbed, just past 2,000, a pretty big milestone for me. So thank y'all for the continued love and support. All right, Texas basketball. The sky is not falling. I feel like I need to have an Aaron Rodgers press conference here telling people to RELAX. Things are going to be fine. Look, the Longhorns lost on Saturday to Texas Tech, 61-55 at the Frank Irwin Center. A disappointing loss for sure. Every loss is disappointing. I consider Texas Tech a rival. Some Texas fans don't. I think it's a rivalry game. You don't want to lose those. You don't want to get swept by anybody. And obviously the added element of the Chris Beard situation makes the loss sting a little bit more. And Texas Tech fans have been talking their shit, pardon my French. And look, they deserve to. If you're a Texas Tech fan, please don't thumbs down this video. I can already hear the thumbs downs coming. You guys are a great team. Mark Adams is doing a hell of a job. I'll get to y'all a little bit later in the video. But look, Texas Tech fans have been talking noise since Saturday, really over the last couple of months. Texas Tech is a top 10 team. They swept Texas this year. Things are going really well for them in Lubbock. So a disappointing loss, though, for the Longhorns on Saturday. Only the second home loss of the year for Texas. But things are going to be fine, guys. Texas is still in a good spot as a program. Texas will be fine this year, and they will be fine in the long term as well. We'll start with this year. Man, so after the game on Saturday, I thought about doing a YouTube live. I thought about jumping on a Twitter Spaces and giving my thoughts, but I wanted to just listen. I did go on Twitter Spaces. I think Burnt Orange Nation hosted a Spaces, and he asked me to speak a couple of times. I didn't want to jump on. I just wanted to listen. I wanted to get the reaction from Texas fans. I wanted to hear what y'all thought about the Texas men's basketball team and kind of the state of the program after that loss to Texas Tech on Saturday. And some of the stuff that I was hearing in there, guys, I couldn't believe. Now, on one hand, I'm happy because people seem to be passionate about Texas basketball again. Like, that's been one of, if not my biggest beefs with the Texas basketball program over the last decade or so. There's just been an apathy from the fan base towards Texas basketball. And I guess it's more of the fans than the program itself, but the program hasn't been doing this fan base any favors, right? Texas hasn't won a tournament game in 8 years. They haven't been to a Sweet 16 since 2008. But generally speaking, and I did sports radio in Austin for 5 years, there's just an apathy from Texas fans towards the basketball program. And I get it. Texas basketball will never be Texas football. Texas basketball will never be Texas baseball. But college basketball is still a big deal. And I want people to be passionate about Texas basketball. And I want people to be proud of Texas basketball. So on one hand, like seeing a lot of people invested in Longhorn hoops again, that excites me. Because we just haven't had that over the last decade, like the end of the Rick Barnes era and pretty much the entirety of the Shaka Smart era. That wasn't really there. So I'm happy about that. But, man, some of the stuff that I was hearing from you guys about this Texas basketball program, I couldn't believe. I really couldn't believe. And one of the things that stood out to me, and I heard this from a couple of people, a few folks were comparing Chris Beard to Tom Herman, and that just blew my mind. Like, I never thought people would stick up for Tom Herman, right? Like whenever I was doing sports radio in Austin, if I said anything positive about Tom Herman, it was like I was trying to spread communism to people. I mean, no one could stand that guy. And now all of a sudden, people are like almost offending Tom Herman. And I couldn't believe that. Guys, Tom Herman in his first year in Austin went 6-6, okay? He didn't walk into a great situation, right? Charlie Strong had 3 losing seasons before Tom Herman got there. But Tom Herman walked into a situation where he didn't have to completely build a roster. And he went 6-6 in year 1. The college basketball equivalent to being 6-6 is being one of the last 4 teams in the NCAA tournament and having to play in Dayton in one of those first 4 games. Like, that's the college basketball equivalent to the 6-6 year one that Tom Herman had. The NCAA tournament committee on Saturday, before the Texas Tech game, but on Saturday, they released their top 16 teams in college basketball, and Texas made the cut. Texas was a 4 seed in the eyes of the NCAA tournament committee. Okay, maybe after the laws now Texas drops to a 5 seed, but that's probably where they are right now. Guys, the college football equivalent of being a 5 seed is like 9-3. Tom Herman didn't go 9-3 in year one. Matter of fact, he only had 1 season where he won more than 9 games, okay? So the Tom Herman stuff, ridiculous, all right? And Tom Herman walked into a better situation. He didn't have to completely rebuild the roster like Chris Beard had to do when he got here. Also, look, I know Chris Beard doesn't have the most easygoing personality in the world. He's got a little bit of a brash personality. I acknowledge that. And that was one of people's biggest complaints about Tom Herman, is the way he treated people. But it's night and day in terms of the way Tom Herman and Chris Beard treated the stakeholders of the University of Texas, right? I mean, Chris Beard from day one has done a phenomenal job of trying to get people invested into Texas basketball, doing whatever he can to get more students at the game, doing what he can to get more alumni at the game, trying to unite the family and bringing in, former players and coaches into the program to make them feel like they're welcome and they're a part of this thing. Like, Chris Beard has been trying to be a people pleaser from day one. Tom Herman preached that at his introductory press conference, but he pissed so many people off during his time in Austin. Boosters, fans, alumni, his own locker room. So I get that there's a brashness to Chris Beard's personality, but dude, he's done a phenomenal job of trying to get people invested into Texas basketball. So I don't buy that comparison either. So the Tom Herman stuff is just ridiculous to me. Once again, on one hand, I'm excited that people are passionate about Texas basketball, but man, Chris Beard's year one has been so much better than Tom Herman's year one. I can't quite figure out why people are making that comparison. It just makes no sense to me. So Texas basketball is going to be fine. Once again, like, at worst, they're a 5 seed right now. They've done a lot of good things this season. They have a lot of quality wins this season. It took Shaka Smart 6 years to get seeded 5th or higher in the NCAA tournament. That happened last year, his final year in Austin, and we all know how things went in the NCAA tournament. In year one, Chris Beard currently has Texas around the 4 or 5 line. Still 4 games left in the regular season. Still a conference tournament as well, so things could change a little bit. But, man, more often than not, in the last decade of Texas basketball, we've been having the bubble conversation, trying to figure out if Texas is going to get into the tournament. In year one of Chris Beard, we're like, okay, what seed is Texas going to be? Where are they going to open the tournament? Not, are they going to get in, or are they going to be in the NIT, or are they going to win 11 games like Shaka Smart did in one season with Jarrett Allen, NBA All-Star? I don't mean to turn this into rag on Shaka Smart hour by any stretch, but like, Texas basketball is fine, guys. This has been a solid year one for the Longhorns. I know what the expectations were going into the season. I know Texas was a top 5 team in the AP preseason poll. I get that. And look, this is not a top 5 team in college basketball right now. So the expectations were high. Chris Beard said some lofty things during his introductory press conference. And obviously the national media gave this team a lot of love going into the season for what they did in the transfer portal. But, man, just because they're not there doesn't mean this has been a bad year one for Chris Beard by any stretch of the imagination. And, man, Chris Beard, once again, didn't walk into the best situation. He had to rebuild the entirety of this Texas roster, but this is a program that hasn't done anything over the last decade. When I say this, I don't want to take anything away from Mark Adams. And if you're a Tech fan still watching, shout out to you. Please don't thumbs down this video. Mark Adams has done an awesome job. He's one of the front runners for National Coach of the Year. For me, it's either him or Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. Like, he's done an amazing job. But he was already in the situation, but he followed up a culture of winning. Like, Chris Beard was the most successful basketball coach in Texas Tech history. Mark Adams was on the staff. He saw how Chris Beard operated. He also knew how things worked in Lubbock. He knew how to recruit there, and he knew what it took to be successful there. I know he had to rebuild the roster through the transfer portal. He did a great job, but he walked into an already built house. He's made some great renovations, and the price on Zillow has maybe gone up a little bit. So, once again, I don't want to take anything away from the job that he's done. It's been great. Texas Tech's been a great story in college basketball this year. But Chris Beard just walked into an empty property, an empty lot. He's got to build a house, almost literally, with the new stadium coming next year to Austin. Not a lot of success recently, a ton of roster turnover, a crappy arena, just changing. And I love the Irwin Center. Went to a lot of games there, graduated in that building, but like no recruit is going to look at that place and be like, yeah, that's where I want to play my college basketball. That's home to me. So tough to recruit in the short term for there. And he's doing pretty well in year one. Once again, a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament on Saturday. And they might not be there now, but this team is still fine. So I'm excited about the future for Texas basketball, but I'm still excited about this year. I still think this team has a chance to be pretty good. I still think this team has the chance to make it to the second weekend, which will be a first for a Texas team since 2008. They're going to be okay, guys. The sky is not falling for Texas Longhorn basketball. Saturday, a disappointing loss. Of course it was. But Texas still in a good situation. They've got a couple of winnable games this week. TCU at home on Wednesday, and then at West Virginia on Saturday. The Coliseum's never easy, but West Virginia's not the same West Virginia. They're 14-12 this year. And taking a quick look at the Big 12 standings to make sure I have this right. Yeah, they're last place in the Big 12. They're 3-10 in this conference this year. So 2 winnable games for the Longhorns this week. They're already a lock to be in the NCAA tournament, but if they win these 2 games, they might be back to the 4 line in the dance, and then they close the year at home against Baylor and at Kansas. They might lose those 2 games, but that's okay. They're still fine. Things are going to be okay for Texas basketball, and remember, it's year 1 of the Chris Beard era. Some of y'all were willing to give Shaka Smart a 7th year after he didn't win a single tournament game in the first 6 seasons, after he missed the tournament a couple of times in that stretch. And yet year 1 of Chris Beard, y'all are giving him the Tom Herman treatment. Come on, man. Come on, man. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? All right. I think that's it for today's video. I'm like running through my head to try to figure out if I forgot anything. I'm going to do a live chat tonight. Maybe you're watching this after the live chat, but I am going to do a live chat talking more about this, talking some Texas baseball as well. Very solid opening weekend for the #1 Texas baseball team. They dominated Rice in a 3-game series sweep in Austin. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk some Texas football on the live chat as well. But yeah, the sky is not falling for Texas basketball, guys. This team is fine. Texas Tech is a bad matchup for the Longhorns. I said that before the first game between these 2 teams. Cousin actually put a nice wager on Texas Tech on Saturday because I don't like the matchup for Texas. Texas Tech is very athletic and they're very long. Those are 2 things that Texas does not have on its roster. We've talked about that on this channel. This is not a super long team, and this is not a super athletic team. That's going to cause the demise of the Longhorns in March. Now, every team ranked ahead of Texas does not possess the size and athleticism that Texas Tech does. There are teams ranked in the top 19 because UT is ranked number 20, once again, in the new AP poll. There are teams ranked ahead of Texas that the Longhorns match up with and could beat. There are teams ranked below Texas that are not good matchups for the Longhorns that could beat Texas. But Texas Tech, a bad matchup for Texas. I'll tip the cap. I'll give them some love. They won both of these games, huge games for them. That's a great team. The sky is not falling because he lost 2 games to Texas Tech, guys. Still a good season, still a chance to make this a great season, and it's year 1 of the Chris Beard era, for goodness sake. All right, guys, comment below with your thoughts. Are you with me? Are you against me? Thoughts, questions, observations. What did you see on Saturday? What have you seen from this team all season long? I'd love to hear from y'all. Y'all are the reason I have this channel. Shout out to you guys once again for 2,000 subs. Really do appreciate the continued love and support. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Last Stand Hats. Use code BK10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase from laststandhats.com. Great hats. Hats like these, a bunch of UT hats as well. They've got other colleges online. Laststandhats.com. Once again, BK10 is your discount code. Enter that in at checkout and you'll get 10% off your purchase. All right, guys. Until next time, y'all stay safe. Y'all stay healthy. And hook 'em.